Hello everyone and welcome to this next video in the bug bounty course. So keeping with the theme of starting hacking, I'm going to give you a main app methodology. This is essentially my approach to finding bugs. And I will caveat that by saying this is what works for me, this may not work for you, and it's going to be dependent on your skill sets and what you like to hack, what will work for you. But I do think it's really helpful to listen to how a bunch of people approach something like bug bounty hunting and take what's good and what works from theirs and introduce it into your own. Now, I've already made a video on my methodology a while ago, so this is basically an updated version of. Once again, this video is very kindly sponsored by BugCrowd. A great hacker needs a great platform, and BugCrowd is the home of the hacker. They provide hackers with the best opportunities to make money, advance their skills, build community, and unleash ingenuity through their security knowledge platform. They provide distinctive educational content for hackers. You can rapidly pick up new skills through BugCrowd University or gain practical experience with one of their many monthly challenges. Or maybe you want to follow real hacking experts like myself as we cover methodology, shortcuts, and tools. BugCrowd has an entire level up series unique to the industry that covers all of that. So if you're interested in joining BugCrowd, head over to bugcrowd.com/hackers now and join the BugCrowd community. Thank you very much to BugCrowd for sponsoring this video. Okay, so what is my approach? I roughly define my approach as like these 4 steps. Step 1 is to understand what an application or feature does. Step 2 is my reconnaissance, which is click every button. Step 3 is identifying those interesting endpoints. This is what I want to dig in further. And step 4, so what does this mean? What does the impact? Those kinds of questions. So let's start with understanding what an application or feature does. Understanding an application takes a few hours. The first few steps of any kind of hacking is just understanding what's in front of you. Now, you might be able to skip this because you've used the app before. That's how I was able to find my first bug, because I'm familiar with the Uber app. But you've got to understand, how is a regular user supposed to use the app? What can they do? How does it work? What's the point? What key features are there? And it sounds counterproductive, but the more complex, the better. It's harder to learn, yeah, it's more overwhelming, there's more stuff to do. But that applies to other hackers, and especially in the beginning when you're just starting out in bug bounty hunting and you're trying to get your first few bugs. You want it more, right? Like, you are trying to dive more deeply into it. So the more complexities, maybe people are overlooking this application. There's certainly applications that I've looked at that I've been like, I cannot be bothered to learn that, I'm not going to hack. And that can be a really great place for beginners to really find their footing. As a bonus, it tends to have complex security controls, which again sounds counterproductive, but the more complexities, the easier it is to test in a lot of ways, because these boundaries between what should and shouldn't work are much clearer. Understanding an application should take you a few hours at least. And even if it is an application you are familiar with, understanding something like the enterprise features, the lesser known features, it's still going to take time. I think often people expect to run like a subdomain enumerator and then start finding bugs immediately. That's not how it works. By the end of this, you really should know what your key features are. What is the point of this application and how do you use them? You should also have all the accounts you need, organizations or permissions you need set up, ready like an actual user. You should also begin to understand what kind of vulnerabilities to actually look for. My approach is often a litmus test. I'm going in there, I see an ID, I'm thinking IDORs. I'm going in there, I see a complex permission hierarchy, I'm like, okay, I need to test that. I'm often seeing places I want to test at this point. Or maybe it's features that maybe nobody is looking at really. Once I have this kind of sorted, I'll then start to map out the functionality. And the way I do this is using but. As I'm going through the application and learning it, I'll start to get repeater tabs up and I'll be labeling them. I'll be like, okay, this is where I modified a contact. This is it, finding an avatar. This is me uploading a new avatar. And I'll start to build up the steps of each piece of functionality. Because rarely is a single feature, let's say I don't know, maybe it's Twitter, just sending a tweet. You can send tweets, you can like tweets, you can reply to tweets, and that is going to send a bunch more requests. So picking out that functionality, having an idea of, okay, this is what this does, this is what this does, is basically my end goal for this. It's finding those little nuggets of functionality that I actually want to test. Now, the next thing I do is click every button. I am always looking for lesser known features. And this is, I think, what differentiates a lot of bug bounty hunting with more traditional web app pen testing, is you want to be looking where nobody else is. So once you know an app and its major features and those major steps, you can look for those lesser known features. Dig into those hamburger menus, look at API routes, look at different parameters, find developer or power user features. Look at integrations with other apps. Integrations, by the way, are full of bugs. They are great places to find business logic errors. As is developer tools. Like, anytime you can dig into like developer documentation, do, especially if it's an app lots of people have tested already, because those core functionalities might be picked clean, but the lesser functionality is getting less oversight. You might be able to find something. Dig into those obscure use cases. While you might have something like the main point of the application, try and look at things no other hacker is looking at. For example, if you have a large subdomain scope, it's easy to find obscure subdomains, but all applications have obscure scope in terms of features. They might be developers, integrations, like hacks people have put together. If this, then that, tons of stuff where you just do not expect those use cases to be the right approach. I really recommend digging into anything AI related for this, because AI tends to have really obscure use cases. The other thing you can do is start to look for newer functionality. Always read blogs and patch notes. Identify news features as soon as they're available and hack that. I've got a recon video coming out really soon. And in that recon video, we talk about building up a recon system and getting alerts. This is what often separates some of the best hackers and some people who are in the middle, is that the best hackers are getting alerts for new features to hack before, like, they have systems set up. So before it gets general access, they're already seeing, oh, that new endpoint was discovered or that new subdomain was registered. Less hackers, less competition, but also less oversight, and potentially, and what you really want to see is automated deployment, because automated deployments are usually full of security bugs. Any kind of features that haven't been widely tested as well. For example, when ChatGPT was suddenly announced, a lot of companies decided to implement AI features. They needed to be first to market, so they weren't fully tested. So that's really great to find bugs in, because again, newer functionality, it's untested, but also it may be untested internally as well. Very few companies are running a penetration test every single time they deploy a piece of software. They are often getting them, say, 6th monthly or yearly. So if you can be one of the first to get to something, you're getting those bugs before anybody else does. Now, I don't do a lot of automation myself, and I don't want to claim that I do, but there are some automated fuzzing tools and some tools I like. Kite Runner, which is a great API hacking tool. It's the best tool I've seen for API reconnaissance. It's free and open source and has these root files where it's API roots large, and essentially it uses contextual information about an API to actually discover new API endpoints, which is basically exactly what you need for APIs. Shodan can be really great for hacking with CVEs. Now, Shodan costs money, but they often have a sale where it's $1 for unlimited access. It's their anniversary sale, I think. Super helpful. The downside of something like Shodan is that you get usually IP addresses, but you don't know if they have a bug bounty program. It may be a waste of time. Discord for alerts / callbacks, anything where you need to get alerts. Slack costs money, Discord is free. And you can create your own Discord channel and get your alerts. Particularly for scanning, it's a waste of time in a bug bounty context, because everybody is running nuclearly, or at least there is a sizable amount of the population of hackers running nuclearly. So it'll be a waste of time for you to run nuclearly. Saying that, I do think it's the best scanner out there by like a significant amount. And if you are writing custom scanning modules for it, then yeah, worth doing. Amass, I think, is the best for subdomains. It's really great at finding kind of stuff you didn't necessarily expect. Again, I don't do a lot of subdomain enumeration as part of my hacking, so your mileage may vary. And then I like FFUF for traditional fuzzing. There are some great API word lists out there, and plugging that into FFUF means that it's super quick, and you have the option to send all of your requests to burp. So that way you can get the advantages of Burp Pro without actually paying for it, because you don't need to pay for Intruder, because it will just send what worked back to Burp and you can keep with your current process. So my next approach is identifying interesting endpoints, and this because what I'm looking for is signs of vulnerabilities. I'm using my intuition mixed with my experience, both as a developer and looking at applications, and also as a regular user as well. I have an idea of the kinds of vulnerability that might be there. If I see an ID, I'm thinking IDORs. If I'm seeing my input be reflected onto the page, I'm thinking cross-site scripting. If I'm seeing complex processes, I'm thinking business logic. If I see lots of data, I'm thinking information exposure. I'm looking for just stuff that kind of sets off that part of my brain that goes, I should look at that further. And this is something I have to stress that you will only gain with experience. If you are not actually hacking something, you will not have this built into your brain yet. This is something where you need to actually start hacking. And this is why especially when you first start out, you're more luck-based because you're wandering into these interesting endpoints. As you become more experienced, you're becoming a bit more savvy in what you're looking for. You have a better idea and a better feel for what can go wrong. And again, I can't teach you this. This is something you have to learn with experience. This is something you need to start up, but because it's not something you can learn from a YouTube video. The cycle is essentially try exploit, it doesn't work, why didn't it work, and then change it. I'm very rarely sticking in XSS payloads. I'm trying to figure out, okay, why didn't that work, and how can I adjust my exploit to then have it work, right? I'm having that working out why. I'm not just pasting things in randomly, I'm thinking about it. How do I go from interesting to vulnerable? I perform litmus tests for what I'm looking for. If I'm thinking about an IDOR, I'll just change the ID. If I'm looking at XSS, I'll just put in a simple payload. If it works, I'll write it as a full exploit, of course. Usually it fails. And I think to myself, why did it fail? I don't just give up on it entirely. I think about what the other ways of getting the same output might be. And I might try, for example, an XSS payload, it doesn't work. And maybe, I don't know, the little angled brackets are removed. So I might think, okay, how can I set off an XSS without using an angled bracket? Rather than going, it's obviously not vulnerable. Again, something you only gain by experience, by reading other people's write-ups and developing your intuition. It's not something that can really be taught. So my final stage is the security implications and controls that might be in place. Now, I don't report everything I find. I rarely report everything I find, and this has been a change I've noticed probably in the last 2 years. I will often see a security risk and think, what is the wider security issue at play? So, for example, finding one IDOR versus full authorization checks just missing from an application. I'm trying to think about more broad issues, thinking about like chains of bugs. So if I have, I don't know, a user update IDOR, maybe I'll try and change the password. Oh, that didn't work. I'll try and change the email. Then I'll reset the password. I'll go through that flow and see whether or not I can start to develop these chains of bugs. And this actually occurred after I'd worked at BugCrowd and I was seeing like a lot more impact. Weird functionality or genuine security impact. What could an attacker do and why? I'm always thinking, what can an attacker do with this? What is the worst output I can have from this? And very rarely is that reporting a single bug. And this sometimes means that I might think something's a security concern, the program disagrees, and I go, you know what? It's not something you care about. I'm going to focus on what clients actually care about. So the general top priority issues that I see is like data protection, GDPR, account or organization takeovers, remote code / command execution. And lower priority issues are, of course, social engineering, which is often out of scope anyway, and just unrealistic attacks. So I'm trying to think about the security considerations, but also what do they care about. The great way to tell what a target cares about is what security controls are already in place. So it gives you an idea of what kind of bugs have been found previously, as well as bypasses. And you can think about how you might bypass or break those security controls that are already in place. So a great example is like permissions. Any single time you see a permission hierarchy that's super complex, you always want to test for IDORs because it implies that 1, access control is an issue, that 2, a target cares a lot about access control, particularly across organizations, and particularly that read access, not just that edit access. And 3, that because of the complexity, it's something that likely could go wrong. And a lot of this testing then goes from, I'm going to guess what this client cares about, to a more structured, okay, I'm going to look for X, then Y, then Z. So here are my main app methodology tips. 1, understand first and then hack. Spend time getting to know how the stuff is supposed to work. Go through functionality and make sure you really understand how things are supposed to work, what security controls are in place, if there's something like access control in place. Don't get intimidated by scope. Break it down into those functions. Don't think, oh, I'm looking at an entire website. You want to think, okay, I've got making an account, I've got writing a post, I've got editing a post. Breaking it down into functions can really help. And you can even do that on Burp. I use tons of Burp tabs to do it. If it's an older program, don't assume everything is found, but also make sure you're looking for those lesser known features or newer scope. Because something is older doesn't necessarily mean everything is gone, but it can be maybe a bit more daunting. So having the kind of like reassurance that, oh, I'm looking at something that's lesser known can really help improve your confidence and keep your motivation up. Read the scope page, see what the company tells you. Hey, focus on this. They will be very clear of, we want to see authentication issues. We want to see OAuth flows, for example. Get into those hamburger menus. Find new scope that nobody else knows about. Okay, it's unlikely you'll find something that nobody's heard of yet, but there is a good chance that you can find stuff that at least most people aren't looking at and aren't considering. Get into the documentation, get into the hamburger menus, get into discussions online and see what people are saying. Again, I promise it'll be a huge help to you. Okay, so that's all I've got for you this week. Hopefully those tips really help and you can get started on the main application. I promise the main application isn't as scary as you think it is. A lot of people freak out about it, but actually I have found most of my vulnerabilities in the core, or literally like a hamburger away from the core functionality of an application. You don't need to go deep into recon if that's not how you like hacking. Anyway, I will see you all in the next video. Thank you very much to Bugcraft for sponsoring this video. Bye everyone.